Here's an untold secret about golf. For weekend warriors, the difference between good and great rounds almost never comes down to hitting hero shots. Instead, we card our best scores when we're in the right state of mind, when we're feeling calm, focused, and genuinely content on the course. For all of my golf swing's flaws, I think I excel at the latter. And today I'll show you real-life strategies for how you can harness a better mindset to shoot better scores, and more importantly, better enjoy days on the course. The first strategy sounds trite, but I've found it to be profoundly helpful. Embrace the challenge. Golf is hard, and more often than not, we don't play to our potential. So we have to find ways to relish the challenge, even when we fail to card our best scores. Today it's cold and wet, and we teed off before the range opened. So I'm taking extra club after a lousy drive, and aiming at a conservative target. This strike is much better.
It's on a good line.
Winding up past the green, where I'll have a long lag putt, and I'll treat it with the respect it deserves.
We did not get time to warm up.
We'll talk more about routine later, but here's a glimpse of it.
So I've got a putt that's going gently uphill and then downhill for the last 10 feet. It's going to come left at the end.
And now I'm calm. I've embraced the challenge, accepted the difficulty of the circumstances, and my mind is clear when I put a confident stroke on the putt. The golf gods reward me, and this long, serpentine putt finds the back of the hole. Embracing the challenge dovetails into the second aspect of harnessing a better mental game, focusing on the present shot. Each shot is independent of the one that came before it, and the current shot, it means everything. Our mental preparation starts anew. This is the only shot we can control. It doesn't matter what happened before it.
Whoops.
But seemingly paradoxically, the present shot means nothing once it's off the club face. This is obviously an embarrassingly bad drive, almost leaving a dummy mark on the crown of my club.
185. I'm on a bit of a launch pad. I'm hitting a 200 club, hoping to carry the trap.
But it's in the past. Now, it means nothing. We just have to reset before the next one. There's no anger in the thought process or any change in the swing. Big scores come from compounding mistakes more than they come from individual bad shots. This is a good one, and leaves me with the putt from the fringe for birdie.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah. In case you're wondering where we are, this is the beautiful Desert Willow. Huge thanks to Derek and the guys here for hosting us.
I'm also grateful to be on the golf course, mindful that this is my nirvana, a beautiful place away from life stresses. And here on too, I'm happy with a hard-fought par. And that leads to the third element of harnessing a better mental game, which is never abandoning your routine. I've hit 2 lousy drives today, and I notice our playing partners are eager to point out what looks off on our swing after bad shots. You overswung. You're over the top. Your swing looks rushed.
All right, time for the first golf swing today.
I just stick to positive self-talk instead of trying to change my swing on course. I have a pre-shot routine and stick to it. I'm still focused on the present shot.
Better.
And here, I found my first good drive of the day.
Okay, so 170 and downhill. This 180 club is too much, but I don't really want to hit my 6-iron right now. Choke down on the 180 club.
I issue ego on club selection in favor of stress-free shots that give me the best chance of achieving my desired outcome. Here it's just reaching the green from this number. I've opted to overclub for it once more, and I'm rewarded with my first green in regulation today. And as always, I'm treating the next one independently.
All right, I'm going to trust what I just saw Michael's doing, moving right at the hole.
Going through my routine and committing to a line before putting a stroke on it. It won't go in every time, but a solid process throughout enables an easy tap-in par. And before we move on, a brief word from BetterHelp, the sponsor of today's video. I know a lot of us use golf as a reprieve from the stresses of our everyday life. But if we're being honest, many of us struggle to keep our emotions in check on the course too. We get angry, we toss clubs, and what's supposed to be a stress reliever turns into anything but. And I try to destigmatize this aspect of the game on the channel. And speaking personally, I started speaking with a therapist several years ago. It armed me with countless strategies that not only helped me improve my golf game, but more importantly, allowed me to enjoy the game more, which I know a lot of us strive to do. I speak with a therapist using BetterHelp, an online therapy platform that makes it easy for me to connect with a therapist whichever way suits me best, whether it's via phone call, a video call, or even via messaging. And better yet, BetterHelp makes it easy to choose from a variety of therapists, and you can easily switch to a new one at no charge so you can find the therapist that's right for you. Many of us don't hesitate to see a strengths coach or a golf instructor to work on our game, but we entirely neglect the mental aspect of the sport. I think the most daunting aspect of trying therapy can be taking that first step, because finding somebody near you or in your insurer's network can be difficult. And BetterHelp is a huge help in this regard, so I can't encourage you enough to give it a try. Visit betterhelp.com/notascratchgolfer or select my channel name at sign up for a special discount on your first month of therapy with BetterHelp. And thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring today's video. That's a topical video sponsor, because the last mental strategy to better golf is developing resiliency. Our rounds are going to have tough stretches, like when we hit stray drives off the tee, or face uneven lies on approach shots that we fail to get to the green.
So tough from that lie?
The golf course is just going to deal us bad breaks sometimes, like chip shots that land on a downslope and leave us with longer par putts than we'd like, or even downhill putts that stop short.
Oh, it just hit the brakes there. Okay, 175. That's a pretty nasty pin position, eh?
We have to stack all of these mental tactics together. We embrace the challenge of a par 3 with a tucked pin. We're focused on the present shot and staying in our routine.
So I've got uphill, 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 downhill, downhill, downhill. Yeah, from here on downhill.
And as for resiliency, we may need to harness some after this miscue.
Oh, I didn't hit it.
But we'll still treat the par putt independently. There's no lamenting the last shot. There's just intense focus on the next one. We don't get it to go,
Thanks.
but that's fine. So let's evaluate how we persevered on the next hole. I mentioned in my last video that it's almost exactly 10 seconds from the time my tee is in the ground to the time I pull the trigger with driver. So I'm definitely still in my routine and resilient after stacking bogeys on the last 2 holes. And I'll ensure to switch my focus right to the next shot.
So it's 230 and there's a creek short, so I'm just hitting a 190 club. Get it up close, hope to wedge on.
Indeed, a well-laid plan
Should be good.
and decent execution should leave me a flip wedge in. But alas,
This is going to be tough. This tree is overhanging me, so I got to keep this low.
there's one more challenge to embrace over the approach.
30 yards. So back in my stance and try to keep it low. It's going to be impossible to get it near the hole, but that's okay.
I've accepted the difficulty of the circumstances, and even though my execution is a bit off, I'll have a look at birdie.
Well, clipped tree, but it worked out.
And I'll keep a close eye on Michael's before stepping over mine.
Good putt. Great putt.
It allows me to put a confident stroke on this one,
It just doesn't want to turn.
and while mine doesn't want to fall on the same line, I'm fine with a tap-in par.
Thanks.
And here on 7, the routine is unaltered. It's the same amount of time over the ball on the tee, and even though this one adds some yards to the hole, it nonetheless leaves me in decent position, and I'll go back to work.
Little right. We're into a bit of wind and I'm in the rough. 144. Gonna hit a smooth 7-iron. It's a back pin. I don't know if it'll get all the way 144 in these conditions, but hopefully short is still putting.
And surprisingly, this one does make it the number. Past it, in fact.
Thanks.
Where I'll have a similar lag putt to the one I 3-putted just a couple of holes ago. But that's not on my mind now. I'll walk the putt like I always do to program the distance into my mind, which doesn't guarantee that it will be a perfect putt.
Oh, misread. Went the other way.
In fact, this one is indeed a misread, so I'll put a mark on it while my playing partners tidy up their putts,
Nice birdie.
and ensure that I put a firm stroke on this one. And I do manage to make the par.
Thanks.
8 presents a perfect opportunity to put the mental game to the test. It's a straightforward par 3. I'm only 1 over par to here, and suddenly, seemingly out of nowhere, I do this.
One more. That's interesting.
But that's the attitude I strive to maintain. Mo Norman called it an alert attitude of indifference. It's in the past, and I won't let my thoughts spin out of control. I'm not a scratch golfer. I'm here to have fun, embrace the challenge, and after a bad shot, there's nothing left to do but focus on the next one. And the next one, it's pure. A Mo Norman strike right off the middle of the club face, and will just move on to the putt, which I won't treat any differently than if it were a putt for birdie. I give it my full respect and concentration. The distance control is good, so we'll knock it in, accept the double, and on to the next hole. And as usual, we start anew. The weather has finally warmed up, the sweater's off, the mind is clear, and it leads to my best drive of the day.
262, and it doesn't look like there's any trouble up there, so we're just going to bash it as far as we can with a 3-wood.
And while bashing my longest club is rarely the plan on my second shot of a par 5, this time it is the strategy, and despite a mediocre strike,
didn't hit that great, but it's on a good line.
I'll just have a wedge in.
Okay, we played pitch and putt yesterday. We practiced exactly this shot 18 times, 60 yards.
This is a shot I'm very comfortable with. At pitch and putt yesterday, flying at the number worked out, but these greens are firmer, so my calculus is a bit off.
Oh, sit.
And this pitch releases long into the fringe.
Oh, no.
No bother. I'll gather myself over this long downhiller, hyper-focused on pace. I try to visualize all of my downhillers getting to the hole at die speed. This one's fine, and we'll close the 9 with a tap-in par. And there was a lot to like on the front 9. 4 greens in regulation, some good scrambling when missing greens, and most importantly, a steady, calm mindset that allowed me to recover after the handful of bad shots. It might sound easy to follow these strategies when they immediately pay off in the form of lower scores, but the back 9 will further put my mental game to the test when the scores threaten to go sideways, starting here on 10. I start with a good drive.
Now we're swinging well.
But playing into wind, what felt like a great drive only got out there about 220.
That was my best drive of the day. Went 210, and there's a guy in our group with about 110 mile an hour clubhead speed, and he's 4 yards in front of me. 165. Long doesn't look good, but it's into wind. I'm not getting a 6-iron there, so we're going to hit that light 180 club. Choke down on it a bit.
And now, a smooth, controlled swing winds up in a difficult spot.
Kick it a little right, please. Oh, it kicked it left. That's a shame.
And this chip may not look pretty, but it does give me a look at par.
Pretty happy with that.
But I fail to convert it.
Didn't move.
And we'll start the back with the bogey. And now...
Oh my goodness, I've done it again. Okay.
My second shank on a tee shot, where you can ill afford this type of miss. And it will put my mental game to the test. Suddenly, a tidy scorecard is threatening to go truly wayward. But I won't see this as a setback, but an opportunity. Can I embrace the challenge, remain truly resilient, stay in my routine after a bad shot, and just focus on the next one? Yes, just like last time I made this error, I'm able to follow it up with a pure strike. I'll even have a look at escaping with just a bogey. I fail to get it to the hole.
Struggled with the pace here.
But what's more important is that I haven't allowed sideways shots to spiral into a poor mental state. It's the same routine, the same commitment,
Thanks.
And the blow-up hole is truly behind me. Better still, I'm following good strikes with positive self-talk.
That was my best shot of the day.
Rather than letting frustration bubble to the surface. A lot of you ask what the key is to doing this. My answer is simple. Don't expect it to happen all at once. The goal should be incremental improvement. If you can make one more positive decision after a poor shot than you did in your last round, you've achieved something. That sets a new benchmark. Consider one less club toss or one more instance of positive self-talk after a bad shot to be a victory.
That was an 8-iron. All right, 181. One guy's hitting 4 hybrid. One guy's hitting 8-iron. So my 180 club draws, so I'm going to hit a 190 club and try to cut it.
Here on 13, I'm fully committed to my plan. I'm sticking to my game, regardless of how much it differs from that of my playing partners. There are no pictures on the scorecard, and it doesn't matter how you put the ball in the hole.
Yeah.
Master your game, not some fantasy about what it ought to look like. My hybrid doesn't even reach Michael's 8-iron, but again, the scorecard doesn't care how I manage to make this 3. It's a tidy chip, a par on the card, and we're officially off the bogey train. Another good drive on 14, and now I won't be afraid to play to my strengths, not in some abstract sense, but mindful of what's going on with my game today.
170 back pin. Shanked a 6-iron today, so we're not hitting that again. So choke down on the 170.
My hybrids have been cooperating, so I'm abandoning generalized statistics or notions of which club I hypothetically ought to be hitting. I'm focused on stress-free shots, and that translates into a confident swing. This may not be a green in regulation, but it's a straightforward uphill putt. And while I'm still struggling a bit to get these uphillers to the hole, it's an easy par, and the disastrous start to the back feels firmly in the rear view. And just to belabor the point, it's the exact same routine over the next drive. I feel like I'm in a flow state. There's no room in my mind for insecurities about my ugly swing or doubts following the embarrassing shots.
135, smooth 8 iron.
And not every shot requires an abacus or some complex formula. Sometimes it's just as simple as telling myself to hit it smoothly with a comfortable number. It's my first makeable birdie putt since the 6th hole. But at this point, it does seem like I cashed in all of my putting karma on the first hole today.
Another beauty.
I mentioned that harnessing a better mental game is about incremental improvement. I've certainly put the reps in at this, and I'm nonetheless prone to mistakes too. I simply wasn't comfortable with this shot. It's a short hole with bunkers in play past the fairway, so I'm trying to hit a raking draw around the contour of the fairway. And alas, I overcooked this one.
I have to just lob wedge out.
And now I'll accept my fate. With a massive bunker lip and a manufactured stance, the only option here is to put this one back into position. It leaves a wedge in, where the vast majority of the time, I'll be able to plop one on the green, card a bogey, and move on. We're on pace so far, with the flag high approach. But right away, I know this putt is another miscue.
That was so bad.
Still, we'll reset before the next one.
Do you think this is going left to right? You know what? I think it's an illusion. I think it's still going right. Take a look here. Yeah, it's still going this way.
With just as much concentration as though it were a birdie putt, I make a plan and commit to it. It turns out to be the wrong read this time, but oh well. 3 doubles on the card today, but that's fine. Because as always, this shot is independent of the last one. It's a new opportunity to hit our best shot of the day, or at least one that puts us into position to score.
Yeah, this is tough. So it's 85, and I can dink a gap wedge there, but then it won't stop. Or it's full rip sand wedge, but I hate hitting full rip. I'm going to just hit the gap wedge and accept whatever it does.
Admittedly, this shot isn't in my wheelhouse. A tuck pin doesn't lend itself to my most comfortable shot, a laid-off gap wedge. So I'm telling myself to be at peace with it. This is a shot for me to work on off course, not one for me to get angry about on course. And rather than seeing the putt as a throwaway after a lackluster approach, or let the 3-putt on the last hole linger in my mind, I'll see this one as an opportunity to lean into what's usually the strongest part of my game. I've committed to a line and pace on this double breaker, and it sets up a tap-in par. And on 18, the golf gods reward the process with a great drive by the standards of this short hitter.
Thanks.
And I'll confess, despite some golf psychology books that advise never thinking about your score, I frequently try to find motivation in it. And I'm aware that a birdie on 18 will allow me to break 80. Still, I won't allow it to cloud my judgment on the second shot of this par 5. It's 260 at the pin here, but with the hazard bisecting the fairway, I'll stick to a conservative line up the right. I know that a well-executed shot will still leave me a wedge into the green, and this one's just fine.
Yep.
It's back to that pitch and putt number, and I'm hoping to fire it close.
Oh no!
But not every shot goes your way.
Should have moved it. There's a sprinkler head right here.
Some excuse making, maybe, but in spite of that, it's all smiles before the next one. A feely little wedge from a scraggly lie, but it's not a setback. It's an opportunity to lean into the short game and still escape with a par. It doesn't take the best bounce off the fringe, and the day will end with a 5-foot downhiller. And this time, we get it to go.
Thank you.
The back nine was certainly less tidy, and a sub-80 score wasn't in the cards. But I'm happy with the process today. There were countless ways the round could have gone sideways. At times, each of the driver, my iron game, and the putter all failed me. But the mental game, it stayed on track, always enabling me to put my all into the next shot.